This painting, this tabletop, once sat in the private bedroom of one of the most powerful men in the world. King Philip II of Spain, ruler of a global empire, kept this image beside his bed. He slept with these scenes of sin and damnation just feet away. Why? This isn't just a painting, it's a warning, a psychological weapon, a 500-year-old piece of moral therapy commissioned by a king, painted by one of art history's most mysterious minds, Hieronymus Bosch. And at its center, it claims that right now, at this very moment, God is watching. What you're looking at is called The 7 Deadly Sins and the 4 Last Things. Painted around 1500, it's oil on a wooden panel measuring about 4 by 5 feet. And despite what you might think, researchers believe this wasn't meant to hang on a wall. It was likely a tabletop, something to be contemplated up close, a constant reminder during meals or meetings of the fate that awaits every human soul. The painting, like many of Bosch's other paintings, was brought to the Prado Museum in Madrid at the time of the Spanish Civil War and remains there today. At its core, this painting presents a radical idea that our entire moral universe, our temptations, our failures, our ultimate destiny, all radiate out from a single, unblinking point. Welcome to the Eye of God. Let's start with the entire layout. The painting is structured like a cosmic diagram. We have one massive central circle surrounded by 4 smaller circular panels in each corner. Inside that big circle are the 7 deadly sins, arranged like segments of a giant iris. And at the very center of it all, a smaller circle where we see Christ emerging from his tomb, showing the wounds of his crucifixion to the viewer. This is the pupil of what's known as the Eye of God. The message is as subtle as a hammer blow. God sees everything. Every sin you're about to witness in these scenes is known to him. Now, look at the inscription right below Christ. It reads, Cave, cave, Deus videt. Beware, beware, the Lord sees. This isn't a gentle suggestion. It's a warning label for the human soul. And radiating out from this divine surveillance system are the 7 ways we fail, the 7 ways we give in to our basest instincts. Above and below this all-seeing eye are 2 banners, 2 scrolls that bookend the entire warning. They are quotes from the book of Deuteronomy. The top one reads, For they are a nation void of counsel, neither is there any understanding in them. It's God, looking down on humanity as a lost cause, a people who just don't get it. And the bottom one is the punchline, the final, terrifying promise. Oh, that they were wise, that they understood this, that they would consider their latter end. Their latter end. That's what this is all about. The end, the consequences. But before we get to the end, Bosch forces us to look at the beginning. He forces us to look at the why. Let's dissect the sins. We're going to move through these sins in order, starting at the bottom and working our way clockwise. I want you to notice not just what's happening, but how Bosch tells the story, the tiny details, the expressions, the little moments that make these scenes so brutally human. We begin at the bottom with wrath, and Bosch doesn't hold back. He pulls us from the abstract and plunges us into the gutter, into the raw, stumbling chaos of a very human sin. The scene is a country brothel. The air is thick with the smell of cheap wine and rage. 2 drunken men, their reason drowned, are locked in a fight that is as pathetic as it is violent. One, fueled by a blind fury, fumbles for his sword. But he is held in check, not by another man, but by a woman. Perhaps the lady of the house, her own survival depending on the peace. Watch her. With one hand, she anchors herself to his belt. With the other, she grapples for the hilt of his sword. In this single, desperate gesture, she is the only thread holding back a tragedy. And his opponent. He is a picture of drunken, comical insanity. He wears a chair on his head, a makeshift helmet, a fool's crown for a fool's battle. He struggles less with the armed man and more with his own cloak, entangled in the very fabric of his own life. This is the heart of anger. It is not noble. It is not clean. It is a clumsy, self-destructive spectacle. An overturned table lies forgotten, the first casualty of this fray, a silent witness to how quickly peace can shatter. And Bosch, the journeyman artist who would have known these places, paints this disgrace with an unflinching eye. He shows us that anger makes us blind to the world around us. For just beyond this brawl, just past the flung fist and the drawn sword, lies a Flemish landscape of breathtaking peace. Rolling hills, a calm river, a quiet town. The true genius of Bosch is in this brutal contrast. He shows us that our darkest vices are not played out in darkness, but in the full, judging light of a serene and beautiful world. We choose to ignore the peace in favor of the fight. We choose the chair on our head over the clear sky above. That is the true cost of anger. It is a voluntary blindness to all that is still good. Moving clockwise, we come to envy. And this might be one of Bosch's most clever compositions. We see two separate scenes that tell one story. On the left, an old couple stands in their doorway, but look at their eyes. Their gaze is fixed on the young nobleman with his fine clothes and his hawk, a symbol of status and wealth. In the old man's eyes, we see the deal he wants to make. But the nobleman isn't looking back. His eyes are locked to his left on the young couple. There, his wealth and status mean nothing. A simple young man offers a single flower through the window to the old man's daughter. It is a transaction of the heart, not of commerce. And the young woman's gaze, directed solely at her suitor, is the final, silent rejection of the nobleman's world. He stands there, lavish and miserable, coveting the one thing his money cannot buy, genuine love. And then, the final crushing detail, the man on the right, heaving a heavy bag on his back, walking away. This is the dowry being returned. The deal is off. The nobleman has lost. And beneath the window, Bosch holds a mirror to this human folly. A dog barks furiously at another dog, even though there are bones scattered on the ground. They do not fight from hunger, but from a base, ingrained jealousy. This illustrates a Flemish proverb Bosch's audience would have recognized immediately. 2 dogs and 1 bone, no agreement. The old man covets the nobleman's wealth. The nobleman covets the young man's love. And the dogs, they covet out of pure, mindless instinct. This is the anatomy of envy. It is a disease of perception, a torment of wanting what is in another's hand, while being blind to what lies at your own feet. It is the cruel truth that in the economy of desire, the richest man can be left with nothing but the hollow weight of his own wants. From the poison of envy, we turn to a sin that corrupts the very bedrock of civilization. This is greed. And Bosch, in his profound wisdom, does not show us a miser counting coins in a shadowy vault. No, he shows us the moment where justice itself is put up for sale. The scene is a magistrate's court. The judge sits enthroned on his bench, holding the symbol of his office, the bailiff's stick, a promise of order and fair judgment. But look closer, see the hands. One hand pretends to listen, to weigh the case. He has a face that looks sympathetic. He's pretending to listen intently to the man on the left, who is pleading his case in desperation. But the other hand, the left hand, the hand of deception, is already reaching out. It is open, waiting, expectant. And from the shadows, another man fulfills that silent contract, placing his coin not into the public treasury, but into the private palm of the man sworn to uphold the law. Look at the other officials sitting beside him. Do they intervene? Do they speak up? No, they see the corruption and do absolutely nothing. This makes them complicit. Bosch is showing us that greed isn't just about the individual act of taking, it's about the systems that allow it to flourish, the silent bystanders who enable corruption through their inaction. And once again, Bosch paints his devastating contrast. This shabby, shameful transaction does not take place in a den of thieves. It happens in the open, under God's sky, before a landscape of serene, untouched beauty. The rolling hills and calm rivers bear silent witness to how humanity chooses to defile its own creations. We are given a world of natural law and order, and we invent courts of law, only to corrupt them with our own bottomless desire. From the corruption of the court, we descend into the squalor of the home. This is gluttony. And Bosch shows us that this sin is not a celebration, but a prison of one's own making. A prison where even the most basic humanity is forgotten. The air here is thick with the smell of stale wine, grease, and something fouler. We see a peasant family, but this is no humble meal. It is a grotesque parody of sustenance. At the center, a man is not so much sitting at his table as he is fused to it. He is a mountain of flesh, his body swollen by endless consumption. In his hand, a gnawed bone, a testament to what has been devoured. His eyes are wide, vacant, lost in the primal, meaningless act of stuffing his face. And here is the true cost, in the left foreground, his son's potty chair. The child, a bloated mirror of his father, his backside is soiled with skid marks of neglect. He reaches for his father, not for more food, but for help, for a parent's basic care. But the father does not bat an eye. The child has learned the horrifying lesson of this house. Consumption is everything. Cleanliness, dignity, and attention are nothing. But this sin has two faces. While the father gorges on solid matter, another man drowns in liquid. A skeletal figure in rags swigs from a jug, drinking himself into oblivion. He is the ghost at the feast, a warning of where this path leads, and connecting them both, the wife. She enters with yet more food, a cooked bird, her face a mask of pure resentment. She is not a nurturer, but an enabler in a system of shared degradation, tending to their appetites, while their humanity rots in a potty chair behind her. This is the true horror of gluttony. It is the annihilation of everything else, of love, of family, of dignity. It is the desperate attempt to fill a spiritual void with physical matter, a hunger that only grows the more you feed it. In this house, the soul has starved, and the body is left to wallow in its own filth. From the bloated chaos of gluttony, we now enter a room of deceptive peace. This is sloth, and it is perhaps the most seductive of the sins. Here, there is no violence, no greed, no rage, only a profound and total stillness. A man sits dozing in a chair, bathed in the warmth of his fireplace. He has created a perfect nest of comfort, even cushioning his head against the hardwood of his chair. This is not the rest of the weary. This is the sleep of willful neglect. Before him, on the bench, lies a closed book. Its pages, which hold prayers, wisdom, and connection to the divine, are shut. This is the heart of his sin. He is not lazy in his labors, but lazy in his soul. He sleeps at the very hour dedicated to his faith, neglecting the ritual that nourishes the spirit. And in his dream, a vision appears. A figure, Faith herself, manifests. She does not shout. She does not shake him. She simply stands, a silent accusation. In one hand, she holds the book he refuses to open. In the other, a rosary he refuses to pray. She is everything he is choosing to ignore. His higher calling has come to find him, and finds him absent. And at his feet, his dog sleeps soundly. This is Bosch's final devastating parallel. The man, gifted with reason and a soul, has chosen a state no higher than his beast. He has willingly descended to his most basic nature, choosing the warm, dark comfort of oblivion over the demanding light of grace. Sloth is not just laziness. It is the active rejection of one's own potential. It is the tragedy of a soul, quietly falling asleep while the fire of faith dies beside it untended. Now we come to lust. And Hieronymus Bosch, a master of moral satire, unveils it not in a moment of passion, but in a carefully staged performance. Do not be fooled by the bright tent and the aristocratic couples. This is not mere entertainment. This is the theatre of sin, and every element is a prop. Look at the jester contorting his body in a lewd posture. In Bosch's time, the fool was not just a clown. He was a symbol of moral recklessness, of the unbridled id. His performance is not just to amuse, it is to incite. He acts out the base desires that polite society hides. And the man with the large spoon playfully spanking the jester. This is no innocent game. That spoon was a well-known emblem of illicit carnal love. By including it so prominently, Bosch is hanging a sign on the entire scene. He is telling us, the viewers, exactly what kind of amusement we are witnessing. Now, let your eyes drop to the discarded instruments in the dirt. This is the most damning evidence. They illustrate a Flemish proverb everyone knew. Music is the food of love. Or, more bluntly, music making leads to love-making. The music has already ceased. The seduction is complete. The lute and flute, which once played the songs of courtly love, are now cast aside, their purpose served. They have paved the way from flirtation to folly. So, Bosch connects the dots for us. The music lowers the inhibitions. The fool acts out the transgression. The spoon labels it as illicit. And the couples, secluded in their tent, are the willing audience, being seduced not by each other, but by the entire spectacle of sin. This is lust decoded. It is the choice to abandon higher love for a base performance. It is the conversion of God's gift of desire into a vulgar, orchestrated farce. They aren't just being entertained, they are rehearsing their own damnation. And so, we come to the end of our journey and to the beginning of all sin. This is pride, the sin that cast an angel from heaven and the poison from which all other vices grow. Bosch saves his most masterful, most chilling deception for last. We see a woman alone in her lavish chamber. She is the picture of worldly vanity, adorned in the height of fashion, preening before her mirror. She sees only her own reflection, the curated image of herself. She believes she is the sole author of her own beauty. But Bosch pulls back the curtain on her blindness. That is no ordinary mirror. And the figure holding it is no servant. It is a demon, a minion of Lucifer, the first and greatest sinner, exiled from God's light for the sin of pride. This demon, who serves the father of all arrogance, now offers this woman the same damnable bargain. He holds up the glass, not to show her the truth, but to reflect back only her own inflated ego. Look closer. He even wears a hat that mirrors her own. This is his mockery. He does not just enable her sin, he mimics it, becoming a grotesque parody of her vanity. He is the hidden architect of her fall. And look at the props in this theater of self-deception. A casket of jewels lies spilled on the floor, worldly treasure that is ultimately worthless. A vase of cut flowers stands by the window. Their beauty is real, but it is already dying, severed from the source of life. Her room is filled with expensive items, gold, silver, fine ceramics, all signs of her wealth and status. But she's so captivated by her own reflection that she doesn't see the demonic presence right beside her. And on the windowsill, the most damning symbol of all, an apple, the fruit of the first sin. The original temptation where pride, the desire to know as God knows, corrupted paradise itself. This woman is not just vain. She is reenacting the fall of Eve, choosing the reflection of her own power over obedience to the divine. Pride is not merely vanity, it is the ultimate disconnection. It severs us from God, from community, and from reality itself. The jewels, the dying flowers, the apple, they are all echoes of that first catastrophic folly. It is the arrogant, foolish belief that we are the source of our own glory, all while we stare, transfixed, to the face of a demon and mistake it for our own reflection. Now that we've been through the 7 sins, let's pull back and look at those 4 circular panels in the corners. These represent the 4 last things, the final stages of the human soul that were a standard part of medieval spiritual teaching. They form the context that gives the deadly sins their ultimate meaning. We have journeyed through the landscape of sin. Now we witness its ultimate consequence. We have come to the moment of death. In the upper corner of this great wheel of human folly, a man lies on his deathbed. This is not an end, but the final, most critical battle of his life. The room is crowded, not just with clerics and monks, but with invisible forces. Here, the entire painting converges. The drama of the ars moriendi, the art of dying, unfolds before us. On the man's right, an angel, poised and serene, its presence a beacon toward the grace of heaven. And on his left, a devil, a grotesque spectre from the hell that Bosch paints below, leaning in to claim its prize. Between them, the dying man's soul hangs in the balance. A skeleton, death itself, has already drawn its arrow, pointed directly at the man's heart. His time is now. This is the choice that defines eternity. It is the choice between the crucifix held by the faithful monk and the temptations of a lifetime. It is the struggle between the angel's call to look upward and the devil's whisper to cling to the worldly treasures, the greed, the pride, the gluttony that have defined his earthly existence. It is obvious that this was an important subject to Bosch as he created a painting that is entirely devoted to it. In Death and the Miser, both the angel and devils are present at the miser's deathbed. Death stands at the door, and the miser in his deathbed is still tempted by the money sack handed out by a devil, while the angel calls attention to the image of a crucifix which appears in the window. This was the terror and the faith of the medieval mind, forged in the shadow of the Black Death. Death was not a quiet end, but a final violent contest for the soul. The Ars Moriendi taught that in this last lucid moment, a man had one final chance to renounce his sins and turn to God. And now we look upon the end of all things, the last judgment. Here, in the upper right corner of this great moral compass, the cosmos itself opens. This is the moment medieval Europe both feared and prayed for, the second coming of Christ, the divine judge. He sits not on a throne of gold, but upon the rainbow, a symbol of God's covenant, now transformed into the seat of ultimate verdict. His red cloak flows like a river of martyrdom and kingly authority. And beneath his feet, the crystal globe, a vision of the heavenly Jerusalem, the eternal city of the saved. To his right and left, the celestial court is assembled, saints and martyrs, the witnesses to the final reckoning. And below, the earth gives up its dead. From the soil, souls stir and rise, shaking off the dust of the grave to stand before the piercing gaze of eternity. This is the destination toward which every scene in this painting has been flowing. The anger, the envy, the greed, the pride, every sin confessed and unconfessed is now laid bare before this divine tribunal. This is the promise and the terror carved into the stone of every great cathedral. It is the final, irrevocable sorting of souls. The righteous, with a glance from Christ, are guided toward the glory of the heavenly city. But the sinful will be turned away, cast into the roaring chaos of hell that Bosch has painted as their eternal inheritance. And after the terror of judgment, we are shown the reward. This is the kingdom of heaven. In the lower right corner, Bosch paints a vision of divine peace. Here, the chaos of sin is silenced, replaced by the sacred music of angels. They play a heavenly welcome, a symphony for the souls of the righteous, who now approach the glorious gates. And there, at the threshold, stands Saint Peter, the keeper of the keys. He does not judge them now, but greets them, ushering them into the eternal kingdom they have earned through a life of faith and virtue. Look closely. Even here, at the very gates of paradise, one last struggle remains. The Archangel Michael, the holy warrior, protects a woman, her arm grasped by a desperate claw-like devil. It is the final, fleeting shadow of the world they are leaving behind, vanquished at the very moment of salvation. And within, bathed in a golden light, sits Christ. No longer the stern judge, he is now the divine ruler, offering a blessing of eternal peace. This is the fulfillment of the covenant. Bosch paints the heavenly Jerusalem not as a foreign land, but in the familiar, soaring Gothic style of the very churches his audience worshipped in. The vertical lines of the architecture draw the eye and the soul upward. It is a profound reminder that the earthly church is but a gateway, a reflection of this true and eternal home. This is the promise. After the wheel of sin, after the fear of death and the terror of judgment, lies this: a kingdom of light, of music, and of grace. It is the final, glorious destination for those who, in their final moment, chose to look toward the angel. And now we descend into the furnace. This is hell. And here, Hieronymus Bosch unveils the ultimate, terrifying truth. The punishment is not arbitrary. It is the perfect, eternal echo of the sin. This is not a new chapter. It is the grotesque culmination of the very vices we have just witnessed in the circle of life. In this scene of hell, each sin is clearly labeled in Latin. Every sin now receives its own personalized, ironic torture for all eternity. The man who gave in to anger is now carved apart by a devil's blade. Those consumed by envy are torn to pieces by ravenous dogs. The greedy are melted alive in a cauldron of their own coveted gold and filthy bodily fluids. Look at the glutton, the man who could never be filled. Now, a devil force-feeds him a continuous stream of gruesome frogs and lizards. The slothful man, who refused to rise for prayer, is now beaten by a devil in a nun's habit, a cruel mockery of the faith he ignored. And see the couples of lust who sought private pleasure in their tent. Now they are joined for eternity in a monstrous bed, their intimacy twisted into a public nightmare. And there, in the foreground, the punishment for pride. The well-dressed couple who believed themselves above others are reduced to the lowest state. The man is bullied and pecked by the peacock, the very bird whose feathers symbolized his vanity. But look at the woman. She who gazed so proudly into the demon's mirror is now forced to confront a far more horrifying reflection. A frog, a creature of filth and lust, clambers onto her crotch, a vile symbol of how her spiritual sin has corrupted her very physicality. Her pride is not just mocked, it is utterly defiled. This is Bosch's masterstroke. Hell is not a random punishment. It is the sin itself, reflected back at the sinner, amplified and eternal. The choice they made in life has become the unending reality of their death. The wheel of sin has stopped spinning. The final judgment has been passed. And for those who refuse to see the light, this is the eternal screaming dark. The message is as clear as it is frightening. As in life, so in death. This is the world of Hieronymus Bosch, a world of sin, consequences, and constant, inescapable observation. King Philip II would look at this table every single day, not as art, but as a roadmap, a personal reminder of the 4 possible endings to his story. It was a 500-year-old machine designed to analyze his own soul and to scare him into being a better man. The painting is over 500 years old. The artist is dead. The king is dead. But the table is still here, and the eye is still watching.